Hello and welcome to Being Extraordinary. My name is Sarah Kent and I help women to connect to and create their dreams. In the last video, I shared a really simple method to help restore calm when you're feeling stressed. Today, I'm sharing a completely different approach which may transform how you understand stress. It's a very simple concept and quite a remarkable one, and one which, if you do put it into practice, can change your life. Now, I've got my notes in front of me today because I want to make sure I get all my words out in the right order for you, because this is really quite an interesting approach to stress. Now, if you're a woman and you do find this video helpful, you will find a lot of support and resources in my Facebook group, Being Extraordinary. I've popped a link to the group in this video description and I'd love to see you over there. So the concept I'm going to share today actually forms the foundation of a book by Michael Neill, and it's called The Inside Out Revolution. Now, in this book, he talks about how our experience of the world is often dictated by our feelings. And we would like to feel happy and content, but often we don't. But what if we could actually understand where our feelings come from? If we understood that, we could change our experience of the world. And this book, his book, proposes that we create our individual experience of reality through our thoughts. He says that our thoughts are like the rudder of a boat. And I quite like that since I live on the boat, but our thoughts are like the rudder of a boat. And if we learn to use that rudder properly, we can then guide our way through life far better than we could imagine. Our thoughts are labels and judgments that we apply to experience. And Michael says that this means we are only ever one thought away from having a completely different experience of being alive. And there is a sentence in the book which says, we're living in the feeling of our thinking, not the feeling of the world. I had to think about that the first time I read that. And I was intrigued and I wanted to know how this could be true. And the only way I could determine that was to put it to test. If I'd understood that sentence correctly, it was saying that we don't experience the world, we experience our thinking about the world. So that puts the lens very much on thinking, on our thoughts. And it also made me remember that phrase, don't believe everything you think. And also I was reminded, I can't remember where I read this one, but it was the fact that I am not my thoughts, you are not your thoughts. But we can notice our thoughts and notice how they are shaping our experience. So I started paying attention to how I was feeling, and specifically what thoughts were present when I was feeling really sad or stressed or angry. And what I noticed was the more caught up I was in those thoughts, in the train of those thoughts, the stronger my experience was. So that would amplify my experience of being angry or stressed, the more caught up in those thoughts that I was. And this actually really wasn't a helpful place for me, or even for those around me. So once I'd actually noticed those thoughts, for me, the next step was to find ways to quieten my thinking. And I did this by simply imagining a place that I love and really, really reliving the experience of being in that place, using all of my senses. And what I noticed was as my thoughts quietened and my mind became that little bit more peaceful, that my feelings of anger or sadness eased. And I also noticed that just in taking a minute or two to calm my thoughts and give myself a little bit of space, I often received an insight which gave me actually a new perspective on how I could simply be and act more calmly and in a more resourceful way in the moment. And yeah, for sure, there are times when it is a natural response for us to feel afraid. And when we are in real physical danger, yes, it is right to feel afraid. Um, and yet, even in these situations, if we can remain more present and not paralyzed by our thoughts, we can actually navigate these dangerous situations much more easily. So I found that by being more present, noticing my thoughts, and specifically noticing the quality of my thoughts, that allows me to choose. I can change my thoughts in the moment. I'm not always that good at that. So, what I do instead is that I create a quiet space in my mind. And I do that by imagining that place, which is beautiful, with all of my senses. And when I've got that quieter space in my mind, I actually become open to the voice of my inner knowledge, my intuition. And that often gives me those amazing insights which can help me in the moment, which could help you in the moment if you put this into practice. And yes, it is a practice. It is something to work at. Some days, I'm very human and I just get caught up in a train of my thoughts. However, on the days when I practice well and I can step back and notice what's happening for me, I can create that calm space and I experience much more flow um, and contentment that's simply being alive, being in the world. This is very much for me a work in progress, and some days, as I said, I really just get caught up in undesirable feelings. As long as I remember the practice, I can give myself that quiet space inside, and then I can experience that shift. So, why don't you give this a try? And what practice, what practice, let me get my words out right today. What difference would it make for you if actually practicing quietening your thoughts could actually shift the way you feel in the moment? So give it a try, or even read that book. And the book I mentioned was The Inside Out Revolution by Michael Neill. It's really short. I think it's less than 130 pages. It's a thought-provoking read and a quick read as well. You might enjoy it, and it might transform the way that you experience and deal with stress in your life. So I hope you found that interesting and helpful today. If you're a woman and you have a dream and you'd love to be in a community of other extraordinary women, I invite you to join my Facebook group, Being Extraordinary. There's a link to the group in the description below this video. Just ask to join, answer the questions, and I'll welcome you in personally. There's a lot of support there. It's an amazing community of women who are creating their dreams. And if you do join right now, there is a little mini audio class for you to download as soon as you're inside the group. I'm Sarah Kent, and until next time, be extraordinary.